welcome you all to the Vision Board conversation series. So under this initiative, every week we bring marketing leaders from different business domain, different segment who come share their experience with our community members who are basically from the SMBs and startup organization and going through a certain transition. So our objective is to create a platform where they can get all necessary information, knowledge from the growth marketer who already spent a decade into the space, and eventually they can apply into their day-to-day lives. So today we have Mr. Prateek, Senior Director Marketing, and interesting part is that he's also part of different startup mentorship program. And I'm sure that today we know that there'll be a separate section where you're going to specifically discussing about the startup ecosystem in India. So Prateek, the one question that we ask, that everyone that we begin with, that you spend a decade, in this, the corporate side and B2B marketing side. You started your career with, I think, a business application consultant, and now you're holding a senior leadership role at SAP. I'm sure that there are lots of ups and downs. There are some learnings. Some what's the success mantras, basically that that you want to share with the community.
Oh, absolutely. And first of all, thanks so much for having me. The entire effort, I must compliment you and your team, Arindam, here to the kind of effort that you are doing in this for the fraternity. I think it's commendable. It's absolutely commendable, and it's such an honor for me as a student of marketer to be actually here contributing in my own little way. So yeah, your question is, I think, yes, a lot of people ask me this question, like you started your journey as a consultant and I've gone through different career changes, but then why marketing? And I think I would, for me, marketing is like yoga for business, right?
Yeah.
And, and let me explain it a bit, maybe just in a minute, right? See, as yoga is for a human, right? What it does, it basically it's a unification of mind, body, and soul, right? So is marketing. Now, marketing is the unification of business strategy, which is your mind. It's your body, which is your momentum and market execution that you do, right? Which is the body, and soul, which is about creativity and innovation. So I think this is the only role which actually brings these three aspects all together so beautifully in a balanced manner. And I think that's what I personally really love about marketing. Yeah, so it is absolutely that. And the other aspects that I would want to talk about is, so to marketers that are listening to this, is that the other important aspect when you do yoga is you keep your North Star as divine, mostly. Yeah, that's here your divine is your customer. Right.
Exactly.
So I think it's a beautiful parallel that I draw for myself to really, whenever I'm in a mix or fix, or whenever I need some sort of, and I need to get back to the basics, look at the problem from 30,000 feet. This is the mantra that I use, really, to look at, okay, these are the three aspects which needs to be unified in certain way, and now then starts thinking about the problem and how do I solve it, keeping North Star, which is your customer, in mind. So that's my probably the philosophy, if you can call it, for the way I understand marketing.
Yeah. So the yoga part really that that angle into marketing is really interesting. So you mentioned that you've been through this entire journey. You spent a decade. So, but how do you see that, especially in the B2B marketing, that is evolving? Especially that earlier I believe that. The B2B market is all about the events and basic, very, very technical level of engagement. But now we see it's evolved a lot. So what's your point of view?
I think it's because the shift in the North Star, which is the customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the realignment happens. So if you really see your customers' behavior and the way it has evolved and changed over a period of time, it's tremendous. Customers have moved. They're more empowered now. Earlier, there was a time when customer used to depend on vendors to inspire them, to educate them, to bring the knowledge that they need to be able to make a right decision for their organizations. But that's no more the case anymore. 70% of our decisions when we engage with our customers is already done. We know that, right? We all know that as marketers, which means so that kind of demands and commands a lot of change in the way we operate and engage with our customers today as well.
Exactly.
So of course there were these events and other kind of activities that were relevant, and they're still relevant to a great extent right now.
Yeah.
But they in the entire buyer's journey, they have their place now, right? They are yeah. So I think that's why it has evolved. Content has started playing a very crucial role in the whole journey now. Engagement on digital, of course. So making yourself available when a customer needs you, right, is so important, right? And be able to then take the customer through that journey, nurture the entire need in a way. I think that's very important for us as marketers to be able to align. And so I think that's the reason why it is changing. And yes, it has evolved a lot. You know, the budgets, the way it were earlier for us in terms of and of course, COVID has acted as a catalyst as well there. You know, in a great extent, COVID has kind of, you know, it's now 100% digital in that sense, right? Even and the content, as I said earlier, has now attained even more importance because it's the space itself is so crowded. So how do you differentiate yourself? And that's where the creativity aspects come in, right? That how creative you are about taking your message and what's your differentiators, how you're engaging with the customer.
Before you know that the customer makes up their mind of which product they want to buy, they've already gone through maybe 12 to 15 different phases of the journey. And it's better that how we can associate in the beginning rather at the end that was already has made up their mind. So how important do you feel the organization or the marketing leader should empower their employees to face the failure and so that they can think beyond and they don't get stuck to the tried and tested method, because that is not going to work nowadays. Is right? It's completely digital. Digitally, as you mentioned, it's completely crowded. You can't just apply what worked maybe 5 years back. So marketing leaders, they are play a very, very critical role in this space. So what's your point of view?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think there's something that we could learn from the way the startups operate. I engage with a lot of startups and I get a lot of opportunity to learn from them. I think it's not about the fear of failure, it's about failing smart, right? And I think that's the word. And today, if you compare the world is digital now, right? And there are the tools available. Compare it with, okay, let's look at cameras. There was a time when you have to have those reels and failing in those and having not the right shot. I do a bit of photography and started with that Yashica camera, which used to have a reel, and it was very expensive to make mistakes with that, right? But today you can take 100 shots and figure out, okay, which are the 10 best out of it, which you could really take out. So I think that's the amount of testing that you can do with your messaging, the A/B testing. I think that's the cost of failure has drastically come down now, and there's you could get quick responses, and I think it's about failing smart, ability to do as many tests, small tests as possible, get your messaging right, and then really scaling it out and investing heavily in what you think is working for your customers. So I think the world has shifted, and it's to the advantage of the market. It's unfortunate that some of our marketers are still, we are bounding ourselves with our traditional mindsets and not able to leverage what is available.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Completely agree. So failing smart. Okay, that's now the failing smart. So can you give some real life experience that you faced, like one of your campaign that you wish that done really that well, but if you want to redo that engagement altogether, so what are the changes that you that you would have brought into this overall?
I think I would possibly do that in the early years as a marketer when I got in, and there were a lot of campaigns that I was running. I was obviously engagement, but there again I realized, which is the mistake a lot of young marketers do make, is where do you place yourself in the whole business, right? And if you're placing yourself just responsible for generating leads for sales, that's where you get it wrong most of the time. And that's what I actually did, was the sole purpose as a marketer when I started. And that's where there was some bit of a dissonance between the business and the marketing function that I used to lead. But at that point of time, I thought it was that I am doing absolutely the right things which the market is supposed to do. So I think that's I would probably go back and change a lot there, the way I used to operate earlier. And I think that's, that's the place I think I would say. I would not have wanted to, I would probably used to invest a lot in tele rather than actually, because it was all about lead generation, getting the pipeline, looking at so we get, you make not your customer, but your metric that you kind of operate on your North Star. And that's where you start getting it wrong. Overall. So I think that those are some of the mistakes. I mean, I'd like to go back and redo them again if I get an opportunity.
I know, and this is challenge of most of the B2B marketer, right? Like, my next question is around that only, that, how to choose between, that short-term versus long-term goals. Because short-term, maybe there's a pressure from the business that, they need a support in terms of acquiring new customer or the geo expansion, so on and so forth. But it's a role of the marketing, the team to think beyond that, lead gen or demand gen kind of stuff. Definitely, I call that, B2B market is the extended arm of, that sales. But at the same time, marketer, they put the, they should put the onus that, okay, we are the custodian of the brand. So we can't just go ahead and drive those technical demand in. So, and that's a major challenge, for all B2B marketer like us.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, you said it, right? This is marketing is, I believe, is the most important function in an organization after sales, right? In that sense, right? Because sales keep the, the bread, they are the owners of the bread. But in terms of how do you perceive marketing as a function within the organization, has two parts to it. One is how do you perceive it yourself, and how organization perceives marketing as a function. Now, interestingly, if you see, there are three parts of an organization as well, right? Front office, mid office, back office. For back office, you have a clear leader in form of a CFO. In mid office, you have a COO as in clear in charge of somebody who's owning it. But if you look at front office, you'd realize that it is fragmented today, right? And that is where I think I would say a marketing has an opportunity to take the leadership, to be that front office for your customer. Now, if it is only an arm of supporting sales, then that's what customer would perceive. Now, it's an interesting thing, Arindam, probably you should study it. I'm trying to myself, because in the organizations where they perceive marketing as just as a demand generation engine, you'd realize that customers have a similar perception about that organization. That organization is more looked at as a sales-driven organization than really focused towards customers' interests and values. So I think that's where, how you play with marketing and how do you define the role of marketing is very important. The second aspect which I talked about is from an now this is something which an organization leadership has to define, right? So if an SMB leader is listening today here, I would urge you to think of marketing as more strategic than just it's a strategic lever than just an engine. And secondly, also the blame goes to the marketers and stuff, right? Because today too, for us, like I go back to the initial days, I would probably look at my metrics and say, what's my success looking like, right? And my success was to basically fill in that pipe, make sure that there is a 4x coverage to the number that is required, and I'm home, right? But that's what, because there's a fundamental attribution issues to all the other aspects that you look at, right? In terms of brand, content, and other things that you need to do. So it's very easy to measure, and today we have tools to measure them, the share of voice, etc. But at that time they weren't. You were dependent on CRM to determine how successful you are, and those tools used to give out the number of leads and opportunities as the only measure, right? So I think that's where we had a challenge earlier. It's no more a challenge as far as tools are concerned, and I think of course a marketer needs to evolve very quickly.
I think very well said, Prateek, that and it's not only marketer that even the business owner, the founder of that SMB and startup, they should realize that because see, marketing get the face of the organization, the way they will behave, customer will that's very that interesting that you have put across this point. Now on the same context, that we're also seeing that technology is playing a very, very critical role. That from last 2 to 3 years, suddenly we can see so many tech, martech solutions are coming into the space. And there's a new thing is called blockchain. Now in this year, we're seeing that earlier we used to relate blockchain with the BFSI mostly, but now this technology is coming to the marketing part. So can you just share some thoughts? How do you perceive this, particularly this technology can impact the marketing broadly?
Very interesting, Arindam. And I think martech is the way it is evolving. It's really very important for us to keep ourselves completely updated on what's happening. Unfortunately, I haven't spent too much on this one, but I know for sure two things here. One is this blockchain. The way it is now coming in marketing, it's going to solve for the trust deficit that is developing between brands and the consumers, right? In terms of the data privacy and all those issues that exist right now. So the consent, the ability to for marketers to be able to engage better with the customers, building back that trust. I think this will be a game changer. And the faster we are able to adopt it, and faster I know that there are a lot of organizations who started building the one around blockchain. It's now up to us to really start adopting those in our communication. So I think it's a very important move. And I also believe that the deep tech like AI, blockchain, and others would slowly become quite integral to the way we operate in the near future. So that's yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But at the same time, Prateek, that personally that I feel that technology is an enabler. They can bring the agility, productivity, some transparency, into the data that we generally, extract from any campaign. But end of the day, that I believe that you also agree that we're interacting with a human being, that our customer, they're the human at the end of the day. We also keep in mind that how creative we are in terms of the narratives, what kind of messaging that you're using, how different way that we are. Like if you see the B2C, there's a B2C, they can use the different media like TV, commercials, and all to build the emotional connect. But if you the B2B business, is all about the relation. So therefore, there's a need to build the emotional connect with my customer also. That how the technology and the creativity, how this we are going to those we're going to match with each other, so that we're and at the end of the day we are going to achieve the whatever objective that we define for the organization.
Yeah, I think it's an important aspect, right? Like as I said, creativity is an important element of what as a marketer, and we have to constantly ensure that we are engaging with our customer in a meaningful way, understanding that there is a human on this side, and he's like, so I'd give an example of a campaign that we, just to explain what, so there was a challenge where we were trying to, of course, help customers understand the power of digital transformation and what it can do to the organization. Now, if you see, this was basically translating into long, boring presentations at times for the customers, of course, and it has to cover the length and breadth of business to technology, very lengthy presentations, etc. So we wanted to convert it into an experiential kind of an experience, right? So we partnered with an organization to create a kind of a business simulation game on our technology platform to be able to get that experience out, right? So they were virtually running an organization for a quarter in a gamified manner. We created a live business league where 80 organizations participated, competed with each other. And it was absolutely, and they were using that tool, which was our technology in the center to compete. And actually they were running an organization to see who is more profitable and who has got the maximum market share in that quarter of running business, where every day was actually 1 minute, right? So in the pressure of that business, you are looking at the dashboard, and there were multiple functions within the organizations who were participating, from CFOs to head of operations to marketing. So they got to play their role in an intense manner for about 1.5 hours of a league, and it was very exciting to see the passion which came out. And finally they ended up getting the experience of what it actually means, what digital transformation actually means for the organization, and what it's like to run an organization which is completely transformed in that sense, right? So I'm saying that, so this is just an example of how creatively you could actually take a message which seems to be quite boring, lengthy, and make it exciting for the customers and consumers. So absolutely, creativity, innovation is
how we
very,
can
very important.
merge both technology and creativity together to make it interesting for our customer, and also that how innovative way we can share our narrative. And now let's come to a very interesting section, which is like our startup. So every in India, every second person is talking about the startup, right? There's so many that funding is every now and then, even this COVID time, the huge funding is happening. Now that, like I can say, like 15-20 years back, it used to be taboo that you were leaving your job and starting your own organization. You don't know how the future look like. But do you think that mindset is changing now? People are more risk taker.
No, absolutely, and unicorns are to be blamed for that. I was going through a report some time ago, and I think their combined market valuation right now is about 240 billion. Right, so this is huge, right? Yeah. I think so absolutely, this mindset of there is a shift towards startups. I think if you talk to youngsters, their aspiration is to either start a startup or join a startup. So I think there's a lot happening in this space. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so now I think especially in the startup, there are two sides of the coin. One is that there are unicorns. There's so many unicorns are coming up, but at the other side, that there are close to 90% startups they fail within a year. So, and you are also part of different startup mentorship programs. So what's your experience, whether it's an idea or the execution or both? So how do you see that, the young entrepreneur, that how they should plan, their thoughts before they're jumping into this, this bandwagon?
I don't know. I always say any idea is as good as its execution.
Yeah.
Otherwise you have plenty of ideas. If you're thinking about something, don't think it's unique. There are hundreds and thousands of people actually thinking about it. What differentiates you is how you execute on it. So I think it's absolutely it's both, if you ask me.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So Prateek, we also were rapid fire, like coffee with Karan. So so I know there are a couple of the quick the questions that your top 3 marketing tips for SMB.
So one is, as a CEO, even if you don't have a full-time marketing organization, dedicate one day of a week, wear a CMO hat, right? Please do that. Second is think of marketing as a strategic lever, right? Engage. And even if it's not about investment in the budget that you allocate, it's about how you engage with your customers, right? And use that to build a marketing function. Correct. So use social platforms, use and be out there. The third important thing is that make sure that your backend is aligned to what you're opening up, right? And in social media, it's very easy sometimes for SMBs to open up a social media engagement platform, but really don't know how to manage it.
How to manage.
If customer queries in whatever, so you get a lot of feedback, inputs, and queries on the platform. If you're not responsive enough, your brand takes a hit. So while it is right now available, it doesn't cost much as well, so you can invest in it, but invest in it carefully and ensure that you have our backend engines in place to be able to sustain that and use it to build the plan. Otherwise, the impact could be counterproductive and detrimental to the brand itself. If you
great, yeah. And the one skill that every marketer that you feel needs to have.
I think it's empathy. It starts from there. Understanding of customers.
And your favorite B2C and B2B brand in terms of marketing that top of the mind. They're the two brands that
I'll B2C would be Amul, and B2B. I think a lot of marketers love that brand, and the second one, B2B, B would be my own brand, which I did for which is SAP.
Yeah, great. Okay, so now we know that especially for the that our community members that as you mentioned in the beginning, they're the all aspiring marketeers, so they just started their marketing that career. So so one question that every time that we get from this community, that how we can make it to the top management of a global brands. What are the key
Hmm.
aspects that we should keep in our mind?
Yeah, I think I covered that, right? The key aspects
Yeah.
that you cover in your growth journey is at
Mm.
different levels. Like, I go back to how I started
Yeah.
the session where defining marketing as a yoga. There are three aspects. Constantly work on those three. I think
Yeah.
that's the important aspect. At whatever role you are playing, one aspect could be more important than the other, but you can't
Mm.
ignore the other three. And
Mm.
I'll just your business strategy, why, which is why your business exists, right? That's the
Mm.
why of your business. So keep an eye on that, ensure that you're using that effectively in your marketing communication. Secondly, the execution, right? The different
Mm.
mechanisms, the tools,
Mm.
technologies that are coming to keep you agile. That's very important. Keep yourself abreast on what's happening around there. And finally, creativity and innovation. All right.
Creativity.
God's
Yeah.
keep. I think these are the three important aspects. I feel any marketer, in my personal opinion, if you are constantly developing on these three aspects, your growth journey is assured.
Great. So, Prateek, my last question is that do you think an MBA degree is important to be a good marketer?
I think yes, it is. It is essential for two aspects in two areas. One is, of course, it opens up and broadens your
Yeah.
mindset. And secondly, it you get lot to think about, right? And second thing is, uh, second aspect of it is that, of course, the connects and that you are able to make while you are at it, right?
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
basically sharing of experience, sharing of what others are doing. I think this is very important for marketers there, and and I think I would also compliment you for creating a community like that right now, where marketers like us can
Yeah.
actually participate and learn from each other. So I think that's what an MBA degree kind of provides there as a crash course in a capsule. So, and I
Yeah.
feel that that's important.
That's important. Okay, so with this note, we want to close this conversation. And again, I'd like to thank you for your time. You have taken the time on this weekend and sharing your views, notes with our audience that were really looking forward to learn from the that marketing leaders like you. And yeah, so next time maybe again we're going to come up with some new that ask from our community members, and again we'll that request you to share your time with the community and take this initiative forward. Thank you, Pradeep, again. Have a nice day. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Arindam. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.